Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you, broadcasting live from Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. They're open every Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m., 6 p.m. Service department on Saturdays, 7 in the morning till 12:30 p.m. A lot of people already in there, 25 service bays. Check them out on the website, redriverfordtoyota.com. They will deliver anywhere: Birmingham, Huntsville, Jacksonville, Dallas, Knoxville, Maryville, Tennessee. I'm looking here at some of these towns. Alcoa, Tennessee, Jackson, Mississippi, Hattiesburg, Mississippi. So they'll deliver anywhere. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Check them out on the website. They're great people to work with, about 45 minutes from Memphis. Want to remind you, and Nigel said, Jimmy, don't forget Netherlands versus the United States of America. The red, white, and blue flag. What color is our flag? It's red, white, and blue. Ain't no question what color our flag is. Our seal. It's red, white, and blue. Netherlands versus USA this morning, starting at 9 a.m. Central. It's a big one, Nigel says, for the USA. Now in the final 16, keep an eye on that score. And Jimmy, I didn't realize you were such a football aficionado. That being soccer, we're going to talk about this stuff a lot. And I want to say, hey, St. Jude Marathon going on in Memphis. Wow, absolute bedlam in Memphis. And we were going down Parkway yesterday coming into Memphis. There are pictures of cancer patients being treated at St. Jude everywhere along the 26.2-mile marathon route. And I think if anybody ever feels like they're tired and can't go on, look at these people. Look what they're going through. I think it'll give you the necessary push to keep going. But a great cause there, the St. Jude Marathon today. A lot of football today. We watched football last night, and Buddy Martin's going to join us, GatorbaitMedia.com in the first hour, part of the Saturday morning college football and basketball roundtable. And Kevin Scarbinsky comes in here in the second segment. In the third hour, in the second hour, third segment, Loran Smith will check in from this hotel in Atlanta. He's right there next to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, getting ready for Georgia and LSU in the SEC championship today. That's going to be a fun one. And we're going to be with you the next 2 hours, as we are every Monday through Saturday. Sidelines, www.sidelines.live, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Appreciate all of our listeners, our sponsors. A lot of fun. It is the youth and military duck hunt today. So Donnie Raines, Braden Havasta, David Baker, and Michael, and of course, Ben. They're all out there with MJ somewhere in Arkansas in the woods around Hunter, trying to kill some ducks. We've had some rain overnight. Should be better. Should have 4 inches by next weekend. So lots to talk about. Jimmy, we were all over at the Cherry Farm last night in the den watching Utah and Southern Cal in the playoff game, really, but it was the Pac-12 championship. I can't remember seeing a crowd as rowdy and raucous and loud, sold out it looked like, and Utah curb stomped Southern Cal. Your takeaway from that game last night before Buddy Martin joins us, and what that means to an already cloudy playoff picture.
Well, I think Caleb Williams just about ended any discussion about who the most important player on his team is in college football, because when he went on another Heisman moment run, that 59-yard run where he broke 4 tackles, and I was wondering how he didn't score on the play, and I didn't realize that he pulled his hamstring at the end of the play. So once you found that out, then things just got progressively worse for SC. I mean, he played the whole game. In fact, Lincoln Riley said that he wasn't even close to 50% after that, but he carried on. He still threw for 370 yards. But after they got that 17-3 lead, though, SC was pretty much done because we all knew that defense wasn't going to be able to hold up. And from that point, that USC took the 17-3 lead, Utah outscored them 44-7. But the fact that Caleb Williams continued to play in the game was, it just tells you what kind of player he is. And like I said, he's going to win the Heisman Trophy, I think, by a country mile next Saturday. But Utah, I tell you what, they showed the college football world that, they're for real, and it's the second time they beat USC. They beat them on a 2-point conversion, 44-43, in the final minute in Salt Lake earlier this year. But it also showed, what an outstanding coach that Kyle Whittingham has, and just how good they are, really on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, great point. And Kyle Whittingham, God, what a good coach. 18, 19 years out there. All right, Buddy Martin, GatorBaitMedia.com is on here with us. And I didn't want to steal Buddy's thunder. Saw your Twitter feed this morning talking about Cameron Rising. So, Buddy, we have a little drum roll here. It's like the Tonight Show. It's like bringing Jonathan Winters out. But I totally agree with you. And, wow, that makes that Gator win in game one show you what they're capable of doing as they get better talent in there. But I absolutely believe Billy Napier will be successful there. But kind of start your takeaway from that Pac-12 game last night, because I've never seen a Pac-12 championship game that exciting with a crowd like that. And we got some already got some controversy on the playoffs. So who's going to get that spot, or do they stay in? But Buddy, let's go.
Yeah, good morning. It's almost like last time I was this confused was when I picked up Rubik's Cube the first time and tried to solve it. I think it took me 6 months to figure out how to work it, and I finally got it. This thing has gotten real complicated. But what hasn't gotten complicated, Jimmy and Rob, is balling. I mean, balling outright. And I tweeted this last night, and I saw Rising play the first game of the season when Florida beat Utah. Boy, that was a bullet dodged. And Cameron Rising, I looked up in the encyclopedia the term tough little sumbitch, and there was a picture of Cameron Rising.
Yes.
I mean, that guy is amazing. Now, I feel for Caleb Williams, but Jimmy, the Heisman is not an award for courage. Okay, it's an award for performance excellence over the season, but Heisman voters are influenced by the last thing they saw. And it's about getting the job done in a championship setting and living up to your billing. And my heart goes out to Caleb Williams, although he didn't endear himself with a lot of people putting F Utah on his finger.
Yeah, no question about that.
That bothers me, because if they can tell Tim Tebow he can't put John 3:16 on his eye black, they can sure tell Caleb Williams, which was very un-Heisman-like in the American iconic biography of Heisman, to put that on his fingernails. And guess what? He got his butt handed to him. Now, yeah, I get it that he got injured. I'm sorry, but you got to endure to win the Heisman. I mean, Marcus Mariota probably should have won it, but Tim Tebow did, because Marcus Mariota got knocked out. And this is how it is, playing down to the end again. So this weekend, there's a lot to be decided. I know that I'm a Heisman voter, and if I ever figure out the new technology is put in, which is driving me crazy to vote after 50 years, I'll vote for somebody, but it probably won't be Cameron Rising, and probably won't be
Caleb Williams. Yeah.
It probably won't be. I haven't decided till I see everything on the table. I'll tell you a guy that's getting some run right now, and I had a conversation with the HBC about him on Thursday. And Steve Spurrier votes as a Heisman voter. He gets to vote. Yeah. And this kid Duggan from TCU now, all of a sudden, it's a play for everything game. TCU could go to it probably should go to the Final Four, but we saw what Utah did last night. And so there's always somebody around to muck it up a little bit, right? And Utah's a mucker. They mucked it up last night. And there's also games here. And we hadn't talked about some of these teams, in terms of how they might get in. This is the nature of this particular playoff, is that, who knows if LSU knocks off Georgia? it won't keep Georgia out. I think Georgia will still make it. But so there's a lot going on right now. I mean, but sadly, as I said, there are two sides to the Cameron Williams story. He popped a hamstring, and his coach called it one of the gutsiest performance. But again, it's not an award for the Heisman. Duggan, if TCU wins, all of a sudden he's going to be in there. And let's don't forget that little guy in Athens who reminds you of Rising. Stetson Bennett is not dead yet. Yeah. Not likely going to win it. I don't think CJ Stroud, I just can't put him in there after the last performance. I can't put him in there. Yeah. And then Bryce Young, unfortunately, suffers because he's not playing this weekend. Yeah. So it's still on the table. But, guys, I got to tell you, as an American, I'm conflicted today because my heart is with the boys over in Qatar. And I'm going to call it Qatar.
Qatar.
New Captain America. I am all in. My TV is going to be on. I'm watching the U.S. face the Netherlands in the World Cup. And I shout out to Christian Pulisic, who embodies all the things we love about an athlete, Jimmy. He sacrificed his body to get a goal, which won, and only the second goal he scored the entire World Cup. Think where they'd be without him today. And by the way, he's 5'10", 160 pounds from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Captain America. That's what size he is. So I'm telling you, it's a crazy. I'm lapping up every minute of it today, and I'm gonna watch the playoffs. So there's a lot going on today, guys.
Well, look, buddy, I'm with you. I've got Nigel, my website manager, great friend. He's British, and he is as into this soccer. Trust me. He just football, said, make sure. He said, I know football. That's right. Now he's an Arsenal guy, and then Chef Roger, my great friend, is Man United, and they know soccer. They follow it. I mean, like, you think we follow SEC and college football?
This is not our worst.
They're just as, yeah. And I'll tell you, I think one of the coolest memories in my life is being in Dublin one time on a Sunday. And I mean, that was before, this was in August of 89. This was before, 4 months before December 2nd, 89, first time Alabama played at Auburn. And I mean, the crowd of the soccer fans that were in Dublin for that game, I mean, they were these cheers, and it's like, think about the battle scenes in the movie Braveheart, and they're all drinking pints of Guinness and just, I mean, dressed. Y'all know what I'm talking about. This is so big on the international scale that it can be talked about on Sidelines Saturday Roundtable, Jimmy. It's pretty big that soccer gets in this conversation.
Yeah, I was at 4 World Cup games in '94 when it was held in the USA in Dallas. And let me tell you, when you go to a game in person and the play of the quality of play at that level is just to be there. It's hard to describe the talent level, and just trying to control a ball just with your feet, and then occasionally with your head, and then your chest, and just to watch those guys, it's incredible. As a matter of fact, the Netherlands is the top soccer country in the world who has never won the World Cup. They have been to the finals 4 or 5 times and just happened to lose to, it would be Brazil or Germany, I mean, all these powerhouses. And that '94 World Cup, I actually went to the best game of the tournament, Brazil and Netherlands in the quarterfinals. All 5 goals were scored in the second half, and Brazil won it. They went on to win the cup. But my biggest disappointment, 6 hours before I was about to watch Bulgaria and Argentina in a group stage game, the FIFA announced that they had suspended Maradona for the rest of the tournament for testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs. So I didn't get to see Maradona, and one of the greatest players in the history of the sport. But let me tell you, man, if you have a chance, the cup comes to the USA, Canada, and Mexico in 2026. make sure if you're anywhere close, you can somehow go to a game, because it is a bucket list event for the serious sports fan.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt. And Buddy, we've got a couple of minutes before the break. You have covered, as a sports editor of the New York Daily News, the Denver Post, in the Rocky Mountain Post. No, it's the Denver Post. No, and then St. Petersburg Times. You've been all over. Yeah,
well,
and so
that's not even called the St. Pete Times anymore. So that's called.
Well, but what I respect so much, and I think is cool, is to hear you talk about your knowledge of soccer. So,
well, I don't have it. Jimmy got up to me. I can't say I've never been to a World Cup, and I've been to a couple soccer games here and there. When I lived in New York Cosmos were the thing, the first rendition. They were drawing 80,000 people, and I was a sports editor of the biggest paper in America at that time. And my boss called me one day and said, "The folks at Time Warner want you to come over there and talk to them about the Cosmos." So I go to the Gourmet Dining on top of the Time Warner building, which at that time was a powerful group. And the chairman was sitting right there. And here I was, a country boy from Ocala, sitting down at this table with these high-powered people. And they began to tell me why soccer was taking over sports. This is 1980, okay? So I said, "Now listen," I said, "Okay." And they said, buddy, there are more kids playing soccer than baseball right now. I said, "Really?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm not seeing that poll and that information," but they said, "Well, we'll get it to you." I said, "All right, fine. Get it to me." They were drawing 80,000 over. Oh, great. Get it. I never got it. And by the way, it turns out the Cosmos were paper in the house. About half those 80,000 were giveaways. Now,
hold those thoughts, right, buddy. But we're going to take a quick commercial break, because this is cool. We're getting into some stuff that very, very cool stuff. We're going to be right back with more Sidelines.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Saturday morning college football roundtable. Rob Browne with Buddy Martin, GatorbaitMedia.com. Check him out Monday through Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. The Buddy Martin Show, Facebook, Twitter, it's all out there. He has great guests. You're going to learn a ton. But he's got great commentary. But he alone can carry a show blindfolded and outthink the rest of the free world. I love the Buddy Martin Show and his great writing. He, Franz Beard, the Iron Duke, Ben Troop. They have a great group on there. Want to say this too. Keep your eyes December 9th. Trunk Show, Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. After hours, going late into the hours. And get out there. They got more duckheads than you'll ever see. Hey, wanted to bring in for just a couple of minutes somebody that lives this stuff, that lives soccer on the international level. My good friend, Chef Roger Watson. Roger is a 17-year-old boy, Buddy, left his family in Manchester, England, didn't take anything. He had $50 he had saved cutting yards and moved to London. Started working for this guy at this restaurant who screamed at him all the time, like a drill instructor at Paris Island. And he ended up working for the guy for 8 years. Gordon Ramsay's his name. and came to America. Is now an American, proud to be an American citizen. I'm proud to have him as a great friend. He's the best chef I've ever seen in my life, and he's a soccer fanatic. So Chef Roger Watson lives up in Indianapolis and is an Ole Miss fanatic, by the way, Ole Miss football fanatic. But you're on with Buddy Martin of GatorVetMedia.com and Jimmy Hodge up in Lake Zurich, Illinois. Chef Roger, let's talk about this USA versus the Netherlands. How big is soccer on the global level?
Soccer is absolutely massive. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you all?
Morning, Roger.
Doing fine, Roger.
We have a beautiful weekend of sports coming up. We have the Netherlands versus USA that I'm counting down the minutes for here. It's going to be a great game. USA underdogs, but on paper. But paper doesn't play soccer games. It's the gentlemen who are playing
on the pitch, Roger. On the pitch.
On the pitch here, these men from the USA need to cover every blade of grass here for 90 minutes and get through this very difficult Netherlands team, which they've been underperforming as of late, but they have some real talent on this Netherlands team, and I'm hoping that they don't decide to come alive against the USA here. But we'll see what happens. USA, my team here to go through as a citizen now. I've got England tomorrow against the Senegalese. And then tonight we have the best fighting man in boxing history, Tyson Fury, defending the WBC belt against Derek Chisora in London. So, what a weekend we have!
Going on across the pond.
I don't know if you guys are boxing men, but Tyson Fury from my town, undefeated, 42-0. There's not a man born from his mother can beat him in a boxing match, and yeah, we'll see tonight. Same thing.
Roger, does he have any football eligibility left for college? Because Florida needs a linebacker.
Roger, that may be.
I've had my coffee.
That may be the greatest. There's not a man born from his mother who can be.
There is not a man born. There's not a man born yet, and there never will be a man born.
And blows smoke rings out of our ears, and he's a powerful man. But I tell you what, though, you're right. It is a great weekend for sports. Buddy Martin, you love soccer, and Roger, it's funny, Jimmy does, and so many people. Shoney, all these different friends of mine. Paul Wickenheiser, listening right now out in Reno, Nevada, gets up at 6 o'clock in the morning to hear the show live. Is a soccer fanatic and a Georgia Bulldog fanatic. There are a lot of people, Roger, who do both. And you see it, Jimmy. You see it, Buddy. I mean, Buddy, you look down there where you are in Florida, soccer, there's going to be a lot of TV sets conflicted today, aren't there?
Well, here's the thing about it. I got two granddaughters who play soccer now. They got to know the story of Christian Pulisic, who's a fabulous. I mean, my little granddaughter this morning, Stella's playing, and she's a travel team. She just started playing. She's playing a big match in Orlando today, and I just sent them the story because their dad, the story of Pulisic, who sacrificed his body to get that goal. They wouldn't be here. This guy is now Captain America. He's for people who don't know, and Roger knows this. I mean, look, I was at Lake Placid. I'm not trying to say I'm old, but I'm old. I was there when the Americans won the cup and beat Russia in that great game, and what a night it was. I'm not going to say this is that magnitude because there will never be no Lake Placid. But this is the kind of thing where you have to call your relatives and your children and your grandchildren and your friends. Say, let me tell you something. If you're not a soccer fan, it doesn't matter. This transcends all that. Because when you turn on that TV today on Fox at 10 o'clock Eastern, and you see this team go out and play, and they could get hammered 10-0 by Netherlands, who's very good, really good. And like Roger said, they just been waiting to explode. But the storyline is what I love, Jimmy, here, of a guy, an unknown guy who now has emerged as a national hero of a sport that we hardly ever follow around the SEC, except for guys like Roger. But it's such a wonderful story, and I want my grandchildren and my granddaughters who both play soccer to know about this American team. By the way, Brandon Chastain, as you know, women's heroes from Florida, and so this is a great story to watch. If you got kids playing soccer, I know I'm a football guy. Come down to it, I'd have to watch the SEC football because that's where my heart is. But this one compels me. And Rob, I told you I can't do the show after 10 o'clock today. Why? I'm watching a soccer match.
Roger, that's pretty powerful. That someone like
that. Amen to that. Can I just say, in the United, this is a cultural thing. In the United States, you are bathing in sports, man. You have the Super Bowl, you have all this stuff. But a lot of people in this country don't understand how big the World Cup is. This is life and death. I mean, England, if you could say to me, England can win the World Cup in 3 weeks, I'd say I'm happy to go to the chamber after that. This is really, the World Cup is the biggest sporting event in the world. Factually, it's not the Super Bowl. Americans think it's the Super Bowl. This is the world. Every single country's watching this today. This is massive. And the USA are there today with the whole world watching them. I mean, this is fantastic. Yeah, every single American should be getting up and watching this game, whether you like soccer or not. I called it soccer. God forgive me. It's this is massive today.
Well, I agree, Roger. Real quick, we won't keep you long, but I want to ask you something, Buddy and Jimmy. He's the greatest chef I have ever met in my life, and just kind of, Roger, make a good meal.
Why not get to sample some of Roger's fare, for crying out loud?
Yeah, that's right. Roger, what's on the menu for dinner? Give us a good something good for the holidays that you're cooking, because I'm honestly, if I'm walking the Green Mile, I'm stopping to eat with you first. So I'm going to the chamber. You're right.
On the holidays, there's too many dishes to list, but my signature dish, Rob, that I think you've had is that old beef Wellington, which I took from Ramsey's and kind of changed it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a whole beef tenderloin, pre-seared and then wrapped in prosciutto, mushrooms, and then savory crepes, and then wrapped in pastry and then baked. And when you cut it down the middle, it's medium rare and it's crispy pastry on the outside. There's nothing better than that dish that I've ever seen in my 22-year career. And
I give. We're not worthy.
Okay, here's the deal right now. Here's the deal, Roger. Next year at the SEC championship game in Atlanta, when Florida plays Auburn, okay, the SEC championship, you're coming and Rob's going to throw a big party. Got a lot of money he's making on this show. Sidelines that time have another 1 million followers, and Roger's going to come and cook beef Wellington for us in Atlanta for the SEC championship game. How's that?
That sounds good. That sounds good. You got my ticket, and I come cook.
Hey, we'll get your ticket. Holy cow!
Hey, how about that Lane Kiffin staying at the greatest college football team ever?
You go to the Gators? I didn't know that.
I had inside information there all along that he was never going. And there you go. Bro, Browne, I told you, did I not?
You did. You told me. And Roger, you have how many? 4 or 5 Ole Miss helmets in your.
I just got a new one that's absolutely fantastic. It's a F7 with a black visor. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, don't you? And I'll tell you something, Buddy and Jimmy. Roger cooks a lot for Ole Miss players in Indianapolis that play for the Indianapolis Colts. Didn't you do Chad Kelly?
I did Chad Kelly, Javon Patterson, Chad Kelly's younger brother who's on Ole Miss right now, Case Kelly.
Yeah.
Who's the other one? Jordan Wilkins, who's with the Colts right now.
Yeah. You got to get Archie Manning. Now, another one that the other one that you tried to get to come up on time and cook. Remember DK Metcalf? You know him.
Oh yeah, I know him.
Yeah, he's an exceptional player.
Hey, Roger.
Yeah.
No, Roger, how do you keep up with the helmets? Because in this day and age, Ole Miss, I think, had a different uniform for every home game, and I think the helmet corresponded. There was one game earlier this year, they looked like the old New England Patriots with the red jerseys and the white helmets, and I thought it was the Patriots, and then they've worn the powders and the powder helmets and all that. I mean, in this day and age, you may be able by the end of next year or the end of 2024 build up quite a collection of helmets.
My friend down there is the equipment manager, and I think he's had the busiest season he's ever had this year. It's a different combination for every game. But,
It is. Hey, Roger,
yeah.
listen, man, I appreciate you calling in this morning. Got to get you back on. Let's do it next week again with some ideas on watching all this football and soccer and everything like that. Some great meal ideas. But that beef Wellington, holy cow. I'm going to have to be restrained for the rest of the show because I want some of that so bad. And, oh, by the way, tell Buddy and Jimmy and everybody listening and watching one more time about the greatest dessert in the history of desserts, sticky toffee pudding.
Wow. Sticky toffee pudding. I've not made that for a while. That's the greatest dessert ever made.
Yeah.
But I got a 150-year-old recipe. It was created at the Sharrow Bay Hotel in England. First made apparently for an American, I believe, if you look up on Google.
Yeah, my father.
Yeah, no, he was a mobster in New York, sticky toffee.
The original
Joey Bag of Donuts.
Sticky Donatelli.
Leather Tuscadero. Go ahead, Roger.
My buddy Carl went and worked at that hotel for a couple of weeks until he got the recipe, and then he left because that recipe was, you couldn't get it online or anything. It was just one of those things that was kept quiet. So we got it. I've made it over here now in the United States, and yeah, it's the best ever.
I have never had a dessert like that with vanilla ice cream on top of it. I mean, it's food coma stuff like that. But anyway, Roger, we're gonna get you back on next week. We're gonna talk some more football with you, recipes for Christmas and New Year's and everything coming up, because Elvis loved this time of year because people getting together means eating, and I love eating. Hand me the salt shaker and unscrew the top while you're doing it. But Chef Roger, give us. Go ahead.
I got a couple of predictions for you, Rob, as always, before I leave here.
Yeah,
I'd say in United States 2, Netherlands 1, and then England tomorrow 2-0, and then tonight Tyson Fury. They're going to have to mine the crusts of Jupiter to get enough salt to bring this man back round from the knockout that's coming tonight. Okay, this man is getting knocked spark out in the 5th round. You'll see, the best heavyweight ever.
Roger, let me tell you something real quick. I've just got to say, timing is the name of the game, and it's a really good thing that Tyson Fury was not in the heavyweight rotation in the mid-'70s with Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Ken Norton, Larry Holmes, George Foreman. But again, hey, it is what it is, and but I'm telling you what, man, that heavyweight division right now is pretty thin. But again, that's not his fault. He's beaten all comers, and hey, more power to him. And one final thing, Roger, I wanted to say too. I think it's so cool that Pulisic's gotten his moment at the world stage, because you remember as well as anybody that 4 years ago in the qualifying, the USA choked on the final day. And they missed the World Cup entirely. And that was so tragic because Pulisic would have gotten his due back then at the age of 19. So he's been waiting for this cup for 4 whole years. And it's so cool that he has been, a feature of this event so far, and that the spotlight's on him.
It is indeed. Let's go USA. Let's hope they do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Pulls that by red, white, and blue. Roger, thank you. I'm hungry talking to you, and I'll be texting you here after the show, watching Tyson Fury tonight. That'll be fun. We got a great day ahead, but let's do it again next week, okay?
All right, guys, take care. Enjoy the weekend.
All right, thank you so much.
See you later.
I tell you what, from across the pond here in America, he is so proud. I remember when he took that test to become an American citizen. He loves his homeland of the UK. But man, he's proud to be an American. And if you ever wonder why this is the greatest country in the world, I've never known anybody in my life that moved, across the pond to move somewhere else. They all want to come here. But great stuff, buddy, Jimmy, buddy. Looking at that, the magnitude of this college football game, and we're going to get into it after we come back from the break here. We're going to go take a break. This SEC championship game. Kevin Scarbinsky is going to come in on the Saturday morning roundtable. Tell you, when you start bringing in Buddy Martin and with Jimmy and me, and then you bring in Kevin Scarbinsky, and Loran Smith is going to join us at the top of the second hour. And Loran, what do you got? Well, I got Buddy Martin, I got Kevin Scarbinsky, Jimmy Hodge, and Rob Browne, and we're just going to have a great cacophony of the great minds. I love the vocabulary, Buddy, of Loran Smith. He was talking about a writer that used to cover the Masters. We're going to talk about that. But he talked about
Dan Jenkins, by the way, who would be thrilled because his team was TCU. He lived and died. He could see the press box from his front porch. Dan, a very good friend of mine, probably the greatest sports writer who ever lived in my book, and good friends with Loran. And that's who I'm thinking about today with TCU. Dan Jenkins.
And I tell you who else. Loran was describing one of the writers at the Masters. He said, "Yeah, he was a cagey old man, the writer that wrote for the covering the golf." But I think about TCU. I saw Kyle Rote Jr. over at the Y after I was swimming last week, and Kyle was 16. He turned professional in soccer, still swims every day. Great shape. His father, Kyle Rote Sr., wrote one of those great college football yearbooks. All pro with the Giants.
Was a great football player himself.
Yeah, and played at SMU, not TCU. Doak Walker's another TCU legend. We'll be right back after this.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959, right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
All right, I got a question. Kevin Scarbinsky's on with us right now from Birmingham, native of Pottsville, PA, one of the best writers. We got Buddy Martin, ditto, native of Ocala, Florida, fourth generation Floridian. Jimmy Hodge up in Lake Zurich, Illinois. Rob Browne here with you. Here's a question that came in before we get Kevin on here talking about this SEC championship game. Maury Gaston has a question for Buddy Martin. Ask Buddy who his mentors were growing up, and is the photo behind his left shoulder one of them? Also, Maury's got to know this too. Which fraternity composite and year is that?
Well, first of all, good morning to you, Kevin. How you doing? I always admired Kevin's work. Excellent writer, by the way.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, buddy.
Had him on the show a couple of times. Got to get him back on. I know he's doing some good work there. I hear him every weekend. I don't know. Is this my left shoulder? No, this is my left shoulder. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Up my left shoulder. The top up there is a headline on John Elway's The Drive, and then on the left shoulder is Steve Spurrier, the book I wrote with him. I'm not sure which one he's talking about. But anyway, just to get one thing straight, Doak Walker was a good friend of mine. All right.
Wow.
He would die if you said he went to TCU. He was
SMU.
SMU guy. Okay.
My apologies. Whoa.
All right. Look, I'm old. I know some. Here's the thing. Here's how important it is that during a broadcast of Gator game a couple of weeks ago, Shane Matthews, who does the show with me sometimes, and he was talking to his partner, Sean Kelly, about whoever wore number 37. Some guy had a 37, and Shane threw that. Nobody in anybody ever wore 37. And there was a bunch of people who put names in. I said, hey, Doak Walker wore number 37, okay? I can't let you get by with that. But here he is. And I knew Doak well, played in his golf tournament at Steamboat Springs with Vern Lundquist. He was a dear, sweet man. And many great stories of he and Bobby Lane, who went to Texas. And by the way, Bobby Lane and Doak were going to go to the same school, but Doak went away to the Army. Anyway, Doak was just a wonderful human being. Died a tragic death, of all things. He had a tree in Steamboat Springs, beloved Steamboat Springs. And what a dear man he was. And so I'll never forget Doak and all the things. He was a great player. There's an award named after him for running backs. So that's the problem is that we go forward that we, in time. I used to hear all these names, Kevin, of great players back in the day. And I thought, who are they talking about? And I get it because the young people say, I mean, look at Alabama, look at Auburn, look at all the great players they have. Who can remember? I saw the name of the Gusty Year Out. I remember Gusty Year Out because I remember the day at Florida Field where Florida was driving for a touchdown and the ball was fumbled and it was on the shoulder pad of Gusty Year Out. And he took it and ran like 90 yards for a touchdown. What a great name, by the way. Gusty Year Out. So, yeah, those things are important. I know I'm old. I know I'm representing the old guys, but I got to get that in there.
No, let me tell you something. Kevin and Buddy and Jimmy and I know this. And growing up listening in Memphis on sports radio, Jeff Weinberger, George Lapidus, longtime writer. You can't put a value on a writer, someone like you, Kevin, and you, Buddy, that would get in your car, truck, whatever, drive down to Tuscaloosa, go to Gainesville, Athens, Auburn, Knoxville, Memphis, Oxford, whatever, spend the day with that head coach and just, y'all know what you would listen. As a small boy, I was the only guy who had to go to the state capitol and stuff on holidays with my dad to Nashville because my mother would say, you got to go with him. He'll fall asleep if you don't. And he would. He's narcoleptic, still is. But he will, don't say anything, just listen. And y'all would listen and you'd come back and you'd write these stories, which you still do. And there was no 700-word limit on those columns. Is Mount Everest too high? Kevin, I think, was that one of the columns you wrote one time about how great can something be? Is Mount Everest too high? Is the Pacific too wide? Is the Serengeti too beautiful? That's what I grew up with. And don't ever say, well, I'm old. Hey, Doak Walker, you got to know that, Kyle Rote, Sr., Charlie Connerly. If you're from the Mississippi Delta and you know about Clarksdale, you know about the pipeline of great quarterbacks that went to Ole Miss. So to you and Kevin both, don't ever look back. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Kevin's the youngster.
People will, yeah. My kids are 22 to 34. They know who these people. My daughter, when she was in 6th grade, did her book report and got an A+ at St. Louis Catholic School in Memphis on guess who? Ralph Shug Jordan, my hero. If I give you my word, I'll say that's Shug's honor. So y'all do it right. Don't ever change what you are. Just keep getting better like you are. That's just my 2 cents.
Well, hey, let me tell you something. And this is encouraging, buddy. You can teach an old dog new tricks. I just spent 3 days in Jordan-Hare Stadium watching 8 high school football state championships. And not just watching, though. I've been on television before, but for the first time, Alabama Public Television acquired the rights to broadcast the Super 7 of the Alabama High School Athletic Association.
Great.
And I was the Reese Davis of the broadcast. I did 8 pregame shows, 8 halftime shows, 8 postgame shows. If I'm a little punch drunk, I got home about 3:30 in the morning last night after the final game of the Super 7. But let me tell you something. It was inspiring to see the level of talent and then the level of humility and love for each other that these high school players and coaches have. It was It was an incredible experience. And, I've never really seen much of the Super 7 because I've been, covering college football. And this week, inevitably Alabama or Auburn, for the most part, would be getting ready for the SEC championship game. So I've only seen bits and pieces of the Super 7 before, but getting to see it from start to finish, getting to talk to the people involved and getting to be a small part of it was a fantastic experience that I'll always remember. And let me tell you guys, to look forward, the last game last night was the Class 6A championship between Mountain Brook and Saraland. Saraland's a relatively new school in South Alabama. It's only been around for 12 years. They have a sophomore wide receiver, Ryan Williams. Jimmy, you'll know the name. He's about 5'10", 5'11", maybe 185, maybe 175. He had 22 touches last night, 272 yards, 4 touchdowns. And after one of his long touchdowns, he struck the crane in the end zone in Jordan-Hare, got flagged for it, but I don't think his coach was too upset. So Alabama's getting that guy's. Someone said they're worried that he might leave Saraland early for the SEC for Alabama. He's so good.
Well, that's what Quinn Ewers did when that Supreme Court ruling in Texas went against him, where high school players couldn't get NIL deals. I mean, that's the world we live in nowadays. So it sounds like you're talking about a 2022 version of David Palmer with speed.
And that's a great comparison. He did everything. He lined up at wide receiver, caught passes. I think he caught 7 balls, ran the ball out of the backfield, ran the wildcat. They ran him on speed sweeps. And his ability to hit the corner, plant, and turn up field and just disappear in a vapor dust was pretty amazing to see in person. And then I talked to the Saraland superintendent at halftime, and he said he's just as good a person as he is a player. And you love to hear that about young people, that it's not just about athletics, that they're, especially someone as talented who's already received as many accolades as he has, that he's still got his head on straight. And if he does follow through on that commitment to Alabama, Crimson Tide fans are going to enjoy watching Brian Williams play.
Well, they're going to shut it down because Alabama will have everybody then officially, because they got unbelievable.
And then, guys, hey, and then at one point last night, it was a dead period until yesterday in recruiting, so coaches could not be in the stadium watching until yesterday. And there were 3 games yesterday to wrap up the Super 7. And I said Super 7 plus, I should say Super 7 plus 1, because they have a girls flag football championship now, which is fantastic. They've introduced that sport at the high school level. But I'm getting ready to get on the elevator in between shows, and who rolls off with his entourage but you freeze. So I stopped him for a second, said hello. We had just a brief exchange, and you could tell they were on the move, though. They were getting ready to leave. I think he came over just to say hello to some folks, and he had that kind of glassy-eyed look where you've just met about 89 people for the first time, and you're trying to remember 89 names. Yeah. And I said, we need to catch up. We need to sit down and visit. And he said, oh, absolutely. But after recruiting, I said, I understand. I know you've got work to do. So it was interesting to see him and Jordan Hare.
Yeah, somebody sent me a picture the other night of Brian Harsin in the stands. His son is a backup quarterback for Auburn High School, and underneath it said, "Gee, I'm surprised he knew the games were being played." It's Jordan Hare.
Well, I don't want to be snarky, but maybe I do. And that was the most success. Harsin has had in Jordan Hare Stadium in a while. Yeah. His son came off the bench. Now Auburn High School pretty much got run by Thompson High School, which won its 4th straight championship. And get this, guys, the quarterback for Thompson is an 8th grader. He threw 5 touchdown passes in the state championship game. And he is, and if you want any clues into where he might go to college, he's good friends with the Tungavaloa family.
Oh no.
His name is, just write this down for future reference. His name is Trent Seaborn.
Okay, well,
you got a great name.
Sorry to bring you down, Rob, this early in the morning.
That's like a punch. I'm coming back, man. But speaking of high school, this just came in from my friend Jerry Kirby up in Clarksville, Tennessee. We just were up there for Thanksgiving. He's married to Audrey's niece, Rebecca, and fed us incredible food. Alcoa High School in Tennessee became the first Tennessee high school football team to ever win 8 straight state titles. Alcoa defeated East Nashville 45-26. Sounds a lot like that score that Michigan laid on the curb stomping of Ohio State last week in Columbus, but according to the national media, that didn't happen. Nothing to see here. Keep driving along, but I digress.
Hey, can I get something on high school real
fast? Jump in here.
Can I get in something real fast? I was talking high schools. Sure. This is important for us here. And then I'm going to go watch the soccer game. We have an event, our Ocala Quarterback Club, which is one of the most active in the state, been around for 67 years, has something called the Scott Brantley Trophy, named after Scott. It's about values and faith and commitment and citizenship and ball. And we had our finalists last week at the Quarterback Club. And there are 4 guys who were in there. I don't know who was going to win it, but I want to mention their names. One of them is Creed Whittemore, And yes, he is a brother of Trent Whittemore, who I thought was going to have a great career at Florida, but he's not. He's leaving. He's in the transfer portal. I expect him to show up with his brother at Mississippi State. Greenwood's a quarterback. He's fast. He's a good player. He's one of them. Dylan Provencher, I hope I pronounced it right, from tight end from Oak Hall, who's got a 4.6 GPA, and he was on the SATs 1530 to 1600. Okay, wow. This kind of guess I'm talking about. He's also Jawan Corbin from South Sumter, was a terrific player. He's at 83 tackles anyway, and Tate Floyd from Forest, my old high school, defensive player. So those are 4 great kids. And by the way, Scott Browne's brother John, his team at Trinity Catholic is in the state finals, playing for another championship. So good luck to him. So I got to get my boys in there and represent.
Hey, no, I love these touchdown club awards. I mean, that you recognize high school football. You know, Kevin, you just got to witness, 8 state championships. And buddy, what you're saying, how many times you got to say it? Without it, you got no college football. And who's coming to coach UAB now, Kevin? I'll be in Birmingham Wednesday night for the dinner up on the mountain at the club with Maury Gaston and some Doug Dean and some people. I'm excited. Anytime I go to Birmingham, I get excited because, Kevin, everybody in that town, I don't care who you're a fan of, if it's for Birmingham, it's so easy to say, gentlemen, let's start your engines and roll in the same direction. So talk about Trent Dilfer coming to UAB.
Big.
Yeah, high school football was really the theme of the week down here. We had Bill Clark was one of the analysts with me on the set during the pregame, halftime, and postgame shows doing the Super 7, the Alabama State Championships. And, of course, Bill got his start as a legendary high school coach here in Alabama. His last 2 teams at Prattville went 30-0 and won back-to-back state titles in the largest division. And then Trent, and of course, Hugh Freeze, a well-known high school coach. Everyone knows the movie The Blind Side, the Michael Orr story. Yeah. You know, he coached Michael, of course, in Memphis in high school. You know that well, Rob, of course, right in your backyard. And then Trent Dilfer. I got to say, there was a lot of shock in Jordan Hare Stadium. I talked to all of these folks about Trent Dilfer, and there's a lot of head scratching going on and questioning, does he have enough experience? This isn't, UAB is not what UAB used to be. UAB has been bowl eligible for 7 straight years after the administration shut the program down. They've won a couple of conference championships. They played for another. Bill Clark laid an incredible foundation there. And usually when you make an out-of-the-box hire, it's because something's wrong with the culture in the program. There is nothing wrong with the UAB culture. Bill Clark, Bryant Vincent, who took over as interim head coach this year, as Bill retired early to take care of some serious back issues. He's doing much better now, and I think we're going to see him coaching again maybe next year. But there's nothing wrong with the UAB football culture. So that's why people like Bill Clark and those who worked with him. DeJuan Walker was his defensive coordinator, came with him from Prattville High School. There's a lot of just questioning why Trent Dilfer, what makes him different? Why would you go so far out of the box to change something that really doesn't need fixing? It just needs maintaining and improving, taking it to the next level as they move into the American Athletic Conference next year.
Yeah. Guys, I got to run. I want to say real quick, we had a couple of big stories in Florida with the Jalen Kuttner story, about what happened to him. It was a really sad day for a lot of people. And the other thing, we broke a story Thursday that Anthony Richardson cleaned out his locker. Yeah. And we thought he was headed to the NFL. University of Florida called me and said, well, he's not gone yet, but believe me, he's gone. Okay. Anthony Richardson, he may play in the Las Vegas Bowl if they go there, but I think that's it. Sorry to see that happen, but that's college football as we know it today. Thanks, guys. I got to run. Kevin, when I think of writers, I think of Betty Marshall, Al Van Hoos, and that whole gang there. Clyde Bolton down there in Birmingham. Great legacy. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
Buddy, thank you so much. And Kevin, hang with us. Buddy, thank you always. Check him out, GatorbaitMedia.com, The Buddy Martin Show, Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern. You will watch it, and you will love it. It is true grit journalism. We'll be right back with more Sidelines, hour number 2 coming up.
and Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you. Hour number 2, we'll be joined by Loran Smith from his hotel in Atlanta as he puts on his Superman cape, going over to do the 3.5-hour pregame show the Georgia Football Network does with Neil Hondo, was it Williamson, Scott Howard, DJ Shockley. They do an incredible job. Of course, he'd been with Larry Munson from 1972 till Larry retired, after the 08 or 09 season. And I just got this in from our friend Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America. This is a great picture of him and his wife. They're at looks like Jerry's World there in Dallas Fort Worth, and it's a picture of his wife hypnotized for the Heisman. Vote for Max. Ho ho ho, 13-0. Kevin, you got to know Ken Capps is a Texas grad, and his wife is a TCU grad. You know, fear of the frogs, but I mean,
yes, Hypnotoad, the Hypnotoad.
I love that Hypnotoad. But that's an original Kevin Scarbinsky. But Kevin, I want to tell you, I'm hearing a lot of people saying, "What's the deal on Coach Safely?" I think word's really getting out. And who was it that said on the show last week? One of our guests, it may have been you. No, it wasn't you because you weren't on last week. You had to do those interviews, and the amount of legwork that you did to prepare for these state championships reminds me of my dad meeting with somebody several times about designing their dream house on a cliff overlooking Pickwick Lake or something. It's unbelievable if people understand how much goes into your preparation. But maybe you were a lawyer in your previous life because you prepare really well. But you go back and you look. Someone said the mark of a great high school football coach is really how many kids come out for football that are attracted to it. And I go back to a pivotal date, August 22nd, Vestavia Hills Country Club. The work you did, Kevin, putting that together, and Jack Crow and Paul Feinbaum was there, and Lou Holtz, Dr. Andrews was supposed to be there, but of all things, his plane was, fueled up on the runway, I heard, down in Gulf Breeze, coming to Birmingham. And he had to do surgery on one of his NFL players, I believe, was hurt. But what's going on there is not about making football, weaker and softer. By the way, that was one of the most physical games I've seen in a long time last night. Utah and Southern Cal, they ain't soft out there. That was serious. Cameron Rising got hit so hard. I'm surprised they're not going to file assault charges. That was brutal. That was a great hit. But what it's doing for little league, Pop Warner, middle school, high school football, I think it's no doubt. I know it. It's bringing people back to football. The equipment's getting better. I think about my friend Dana Marquez, the director of equipment operations. You know Dana down at Auburn.
Yes.
If people knew how much that guy cares and loves every one of those players, what they do with every single helmet and the equipment for concussion protocol and all. Kevin, again, get the word out about this and how people can support you, because if we don't have this, we don't have anything to talk about on Saturdays. no more college football. Thank you for what you and your group are doing.
Well, first of all, Jack Crow deserves the lion's share of the credit. This was his baby, along with Dr. Andrews. You know, they started talking about this years ago about how do we protect young athletes? How do we keep them safe so they'll continue to play? Because that's the lifeblood of high school football, which is the lifeblood of college football, which is the lifeblood of professional football. That pyramid of participation, the widest base, that's the largest number of that. There may be 30 million kids across the United States playing youth sports. But who's coaching them? Volunteer moms and dads who have other jobs, and they, in their spare time, out of the goodness of their hearts, they coach these young people in every sport you can imagine. But what do they know about concussions? What do they know about overuse injuries? Yeah. And that was the genesis for the idea of Coach Safely, an online course in a variety of subjects that would give these youth coaches a good basic foundation of knowledge so they can take care of these kids. Because you guys know, you watch the games today, you'll see an army of medical personnel on the sidelines. There's no army of medical personnel at an 8-year-old football game on a Saturday morning. You as the coach, you're the doctor, you're the trainer, you're the coach, you're the nutritionist, you're everything when those kids are in your care. So Coach Safely gives you that foundation. You can go online. It's coachsafely.org. You can see the course. You can take the course. Parents can take the course. Youth coaches can take the course. So you know what you need to do in the case of an emergency in particular. Everything's not an emergency, but there was one case where a young mom in South Alabama, her 2 daughters, 5-year-old twins, the cutest little buttons you'll ever see. They were playing softball for a team called the Diamond Divas, and not even playing softball. One of their daughters was swinging from a vine at home, hit her head. Well, she seemed to be fine. They went to Montgomery just to have a little family trip, run some errands, eat some dinner. She started feeling sick. Now, a lot of times, you know, in that situation, you say, oh, well, we'll settle her down. We'll take her home, let her rest. But mom knew, because a week before, and this is divine intervention, a week before she had taken the Coach Safely course, she suspected her daughter may have a concussion. They went to an emergency room. It was much worse than a concussion. She had bleeding on her brain. They had to rush that young girl to Birmingham to Children's Hospital. Dr. Brandon Rock and his team, they did emergency brain surgery to remove the blood clot on her brain. She would not have survived had they not done surgery that night. And the great ending to the story is that little girl is happy and healthy today. And the mom herself said, Coach Safely helped save my daughter's life. And I don't know a better testimonial than that to encourage youth coaches and parents. Take this course. You'll be glad you did. You may never need it, but if you do, you'll have that knowledge.
I can tell you this, in 14 years coaching cross country and track and field at St. Louis Catholic Middle School, 5th through 8th graders, and eventually it became 3rd through 8th graders. I was lucky to be under the direction of my good friend Kevin Rainey, who was as strong a father and Catholic as I've ever known in my life, followed by another great one, ditto, the same character, Anthony Ward, and then Kelly Grusin. And you coach all those kids, people get hurt. Some of them are playing 3 and 4 sports. And we were getting ready for the state championship. We had the best team we'd ever had in my tenure there as an assistant. You know, I was kind of getting their heads, motivate them. If you had potential, I was your worst nightmare. But I remember our best runner had a problem with his ankle. It was affecting his knee. And I told him, I said, we all did. I said, you're not going to run in the regional. We're going to win this with our backups. We want to save you for the state championship. Well, he did that. And I say, I don't want you coming back when you're 25 or 30 going, why'd you make me, because you can't walk. But in the state championship, he had the lead in the first mile. You know, it gets intense, rolled on a rock. We had to carry him to the finish line, and all of his teammates gathered around him and said a prayer. You know, that's the kind of respect, but they learned you're going to do everything you can to win, develop depth and all, but you better coach safely. Because if you don't know what you're doing and you're trying to push somebody, trust me, I've got scars from surgery, stupid things. I'm not, I've learned this much. You coach safely, the concussion protocol, knowing when to pull back, go to the doctor. I mean, again, I'm not a doctor, but every orthopedic surgeon I know donate their time as volunteers for football teams at all levels. They go out there and they stand on the sidelines. And there's a lot of these schools, that you play. They don't have a doctor. None of their people in the stands are doctors. My high school, is there a doctor in the house? There's 50 people up there. Go out and help people and do what you do, because you can save people's lives. I heard that story, and you told it that night at the Coach Safely banquet in Vestavia, and you could hear a pin drop because everybody was going, that could have been my son or daughter. So how do people directly get involved? And we're going to move into some more football. But without this, we can't be talking about football anyway.
That's right. Well, you can go to the website. Again, it's Coach Safely with an L, coachsafely.org. You can read all about the origin of the organization. You can read about a synopsis of all the courses, the subjects that the course covers. You can take the course. You can also donate. We welcome any and all contributions to our cause, because on average, guys, every youth coach coaches about 15 young people. So when you train that one coach, you're helping to protect 15 children.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it's all about. I mean,
in cases they play different sports up to before they get to school ball. And when they get to school ball here in Alabama, the Alabama High School Athletic Association takes charge.
Yeah.
And then those coaches are trained through the AHSAA. So we're trying to precede that and train the coaches who work with these young people before they get to high school.
Yeah. Well, it's an incredible cause. Kevin, Jimmy, let's get started. Georgia, LSU today, SEC championship game. Did you see LSU? Mark Ham picked it last week. He said A&M is going to beat LSU, but now they're 9-3. Tell us how LSU is going to beat Georgia, if they can, if there's a path, and lay it out for us. I'm curious because Loran Smith, in a second, I'm going to get to say one of my favorite lines when he joins us, and that is, Loran, what do you got? But Kevin, is it possible LSU beats Georgia?
In the way that anything's possible, perhaps. If Georgia plays the way Georgia can play, you would think not.
Yeah.
But and how healthy is Jaden Daniels? He's the whole key. We've seen Jaden Daniels when he was not at his best. They fell behind 17-0 to Auburn.
Yeah.
And when he's been at his best, we saw them beat Alabama. So you tell me what we're going to get from Jaden Daniels, and I'll tell you if there's a chance for this to be a 4-quarter game.
Yeah, that's a good point. Jimmy, pile on to this one. That's the best point I think I've heard on the show today. Jimmy? Yeah. Okay. Jimmy, Kevin, I'm not sure if Jimmy heard me or not, but yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Jimmy, are you able to hear us? Okay. All right. Kevin, are you there?
I am.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Well, speaking of that, I don't know if there's a connection with Jimmy, but of this matchup, Jaden Daniels, I think Arkansas sacked him 7 times. And you look at the what's amazing to me, Tony Barnhart was on the show Monday, asked him about his choice for coach of the year. He said, I'm going to go on a crazy, maybe, but I'm going to say Kirby Smart, managing what he lost from last year, repeating as a national champion, and doing what they're doing this year. Do you agree?
Look, Kirby's done a great job. And sometimes maintaining that level of excellence is harder than getting there in the first place. I think most coaches will tell you that staying there is harder than getting there, is the phrase that many of them will use. And Kirby's been able to do that. And again, the volume of talent that Georgia lost to the NFL draft after last year's national championship is astounding. And to come back and run the table again the next year. And yeah, they had that close call at Missouri, and there have been games when they haven't been at their best. But who would you pick head to head on a neutral field against Georgia? I'm not sure there's anybody.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody.
And maybe, the one team, but if you ask Georgia, who's the one team they don't want to see head to head on a neutral field?
Alabama.
You know who it would be? You guys both know the answer to that. That's the Crimson Tide.
Yeah. I mean, I just think back to last year. Was it 41-17, whatever? Oh, wow. In Atlanta.
You do not want to see, hey, no one in that playoff wants to see a scenario that allows Alabama to get into the field in the number 4 spot. And no one wants to give Bryce Young another at bat because he is the most dangerous player in America. That's the way I look at Bryce. He's not going to win the Heisman, a second Heisman back to back, but he is the most dangerous player in America. No doubt.
Yeah, he is. And I that duel between him and Hendon Hooker, October 15th up at Neyland Stadium, was just off the charts good. And I think about what other quarterback duel have we seen this year that was that good? And then the 2 games back to back, the wins over Tennessee and Clemson, Spencer Rattler at South Carolina.
Well,
Kevin.
Hey, let's remember, too, and this has gotten lost in the shuffle because Alabama has dropped a couple of games. Bryce Young wasn't fully healthy when they went to Knoxville.
Yeah.
He was still recovering, and I don't know at what point he got fully healthy, but it wasn't the week they went to Knoxville. I can tell you that. He had missed a lot of practice time, which obviously affects your timing with your receivers. You know, some rust builds up even for someone as talented as him. Yeah. So, you know, we saw Bryce Young do extraordinary things at far less than 100%. And when he's fully healthy, you do not, as a defensive coordinator, as an edge rusher, as a cover cornerback, want to see Bryce Young dropping back to pass.
Yeah, the way he can run, he gets outside the pocket, he's dangerous. I mean, Jimmy was saying Caleb Williams for the Heisman. I still think the best player, at least when he's healthy, is Bryce Young. He has meant more to Alabama this year than even Will Anderson. That's how good he is. Jimmy, jump in here. We lost you there for a minute. Must have had a Blue Jay on the line there with you.
Yeah, well, again, we saw Caleb Williams, what happened last night when he pulled that hamstring at the end of that incredible Heisman moment run. He's had about 10 of them in the last 2 weeks. And after that, they were done because we all know USC's defense is horrible, to be polite. But I will say this, that actually Bryce played 4 consecutive games, starting with Tennessee, without throwing a single pass in practice any of those weeks leading up to the game. And that is a big reason why the questions about Alabama's young receiver core came up, because they obviously weren't developing. They weren't making big plays in game situations because they couldn't work with Bryce for a month. The Auburn game last week was the first time since the injury at Arkansas that he's been 100%. And yeah, everybody's exactly right. The one team Georgia doesn't want to see in a playoff scenario is Alabama. And believe it or not, I don't think Georgia's ever beaten Alabama in Atlanta, to my knowledge. But anyway, the only way I could see Alabama getting in, though, at this point would be if TCU lost by a 2-touchdown margin or greater. You know, other than that, I think that Ohio State loss was so egregious last week that TCU could very well be in the playoff already, despite today's result, unless they get blown out. But yeah, because what's really hurt Alabama is the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season, because Ole Miss faded. And LSU had that horrible loss last week, and their 2 best wins are against 4 lost teams.
Jimmy, hold those thoughts. We're going to take a quick break. I want you to follow up. I'm going to finish that statement. The old stopwatch Mildred here to my right was, you got to watch the stopwatch, Paul. We'll be right back with more Sidelines.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Hagen, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959 right in the heart of Auburn, Hagen, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
All right, Jimmy, you were rolling talking about the football situation. Keep going.
Well, and then the other win, as it turns out, biggest win is Mississippi State, because they climbed into the top 25 with the victory over Ole Miss. And a lot of people wouldn't realize this, but Ole Miss dropped out of the top 25. And then furthermore, what's really saved Ohio State, I mean, in my mind, to get beat like they did last week at home, especially with Michigan playing without their best player and pulling away to almost double the score on Ohio State. But that win over Penn State now has turned out to be big, because Penn State climbed into the top 10 at 10-2. And so that's their best win. So they can say it's over a top 10 team. Never mind that Penn State got manhandled at Michigan. And then again, you know, they again, James Franklin teams just can't quite get over the hump. Their offense did make Ohio State's defense look very ordinary, but they just couldn't stop that Ohio State offense. And, you know, Ohio State won that one, but those were the only two opponents Ohio State played that are ranked. Yeah. Kevin, along the lines of what he's saying, and Loran Smith is about to jump on here with us, but along the lines of what Jimmy's saying, I got to ask you real quick before Loran comes on. Do you think Ohio State, the national narrative, there's minders, and you know what I'm talking about. You know, you talk to anybody that ever goes on business to Beijing, you go out for a morning run, if you're a high-profile American businessman, there's 3 or 4 minders running on your left and your right, watching your every move. There's always someone there to insert the Ohio State narrative. And as soon as they lost 45-23 to Michigan last Saturday, you began to hear about them getting back in. And Jimmy brilliantly pointed out last week, imagine the flip side. I know Alabama was already a 2-loss team, but imagine that they lost at home in the Iron Bowl 45-23 to Auburn. Quickly, before we go to Loran, what would have happened? I mean, I want your opinion, because I respect what you say.
Well, this is an instance where brand matters. And Ohio State has a brand that really certainly isn't as earned as Alabama's brand. And you can say that, yes, they're not supposed to consider the past. They're not supposed to consider the number of national championships Alabama has won. But you know what Alabama is.
Yeah.
And you also know what Ohio State is. And Ohio State is overrated as a brand.
Yeah.
And it benefits them in ways that they have not earned, far beyond what people say that is the case with Alabama. People say that about Alabama, but you got to tap the brakes, because when you give Alabama an opportunity, far more often than not, they take advantage of it.
Well, yeah, they are, and it's an earned reputation. And so the Alabama brand, it's the best in all of college football, hands down. All right, well, let's do this. My favorite thing to say is when our friend Loran Smith, native of Wrightsville, Georgia, is on, as his longtime broadcast partner, Larry Munson, would say, Loran, what do you got? Quickly, Loran, quickly. Loran, welcome to Sidelines. I love you. My wife goes, when I'm like Loran, I don't know what, you know, I want to be like Loran. I want to grow up, be like Loran Smith. You are one of the coolest guests we have since 1972, the first sideline reporter in college football. And Kevin, I said one time, what's the craziest thing that ever happened to you on the Georgia football broadcast with Larry Munson? He said, Rob, one time did a wonderful interview in the pregame and went up there back to Larry, and he said, Loran, great job, but you had a dead mic. But anyway.
Well, y'all are doing me in. But I got a little problem. Hold on, let's see. You're taking me to the car? Yeah. I've got to get a package. Can you believe it? I've got a manuscript.
Yeah.
It's in my car, and I got to get it out of my car and get it in the hands of somebody who's going to make a delivery. So I'm walking to my car in the garage at the Marriott Marquis in Atlanta. So I'm having a traffic and automobile safari, which I could do without.
Be careful, please. But Kevin, he's writing a book about Georgia's national championship last year, and he's been holding up in places like Sea Island and St. Simons. And I said, look, Loran, the way Georgia's playing, you might as well just buy a place down there because it looks like you might be writing another book this year. Loran,
this could be a series of sequels. The way Kirby has built that program.
Can we thank the Harry Potter books? I mean,
well, you can't really say, you're going to have a big run like Alabama. I don't know that anybody could ever do that again. It's just not likely. But I think if anybody could, Kirby could. But not only do the players change, those who play on the field, the coaching staffs change, and then the game changes. You got people getting into situations where
Loran, getting along the line of what he's saying. Yeah, you were talking about no one can do what Alabama's done maybe ever, but I mean, Kirby Smart is making a statement today with a win over LSU that he might be going on an incredible run because nothing seems to be changing except better players keep coming to Georgia every year and more of them.
Well, it's hard to maintain that. Now, I happen to think that if anybody can, Kirby can. But I mean, I think he would be the best one to be able to do that. And, but nothing is forever. The 50s Yankees, who were so great, even the 20s Yankees, and then again later on, the Lombardi Packers, at some point it changes. You can't be on top forever. But I'd say Kirby is doing the best job among the young coaches right now, and that's just not a prejudiced position because I am affiliated with Georgia and have a working relationship with him. But there's always somebody out there who's going to find a way to rain on your parade. So you have to be up mentally every dadgum week in college football, and that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Because everybody's taking a shot at you. Everybody wants to knock off and to throw number one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it's tough, and going back to Lombardi, for example, you would think that was the best run for the longest time, but it ran aground. I don't know if he injured his health by being so involved. It's intense.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about everything from where the waste paper basket sits.
Yeah.
It might need moving to make a thoroughfare easier to get through. Coaches think in those terms. I know Kirby does.
Yeah.
I mean, just like he, before the Tennessee game, he spent considerable time convincing the Georgia supporters that they had to be there and they had to be disruptive. And he pulled it off. But it's hard to do all of that. And then once you do it, you get recognition. Next thing you know, you got to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to perpetuate.
Yeah.
So I feel good about where the program under Kirby Smart is as an alumnus. But I know there are other coaches out there who are waiting for the opportunity to upset what Georgia is doing and what Kirby's trying to do.
Yeah.
And that includes LSU late this afternoon.
Yeah, I agree. Kevin, Loran gave us one of the great terms that you as a journalist, True Grit journalist, both of y'all know, talked about the Champions Dinner at the Masters back in April. And last year's winner last night gave a great stem winder. You know what a stem winder is, don't you? And you think about what he just said about maintaining that level of excellence. There's a tremendous amount of pressure on coaches, aren't there, Kevin?
There really is. And, listening to Loran, it reminded me of what Pat Dye once told me, that he really believed this, that you could only get your team to a physical and emotional peak about 3 or 4 times a season. And the rest of the time you had to muddle. Sometimes you just had to fight through. adversity, and it might be adversity of your own doing, of your own making. That it is impossible to get a team up at its peak 12 times in 12 regular season games, and now you've got the SEC championship game and then 2 playoff games beyond. That is a challenge that Pat Dye didn't face, that Vince Dooley didn't face, that Bear Bryant didn't face. So it is harder than ever to maintain. And it's a tribute to Kirby and his staff and everyone at Georgia that they have been able to maintain at this really high level.
Yeah. Loran, along those lines, I know last week they had the public service for Vince Dooley, and you were close friends with him. Many times I would be talking to you, and you would be picking up Coach Dooley to go down to Macon or Albany or, Tifton or something for a dinner or a function. But he will never be forgotten. His legacy is one that is on the Mount Rushmore of Southern and college football. Means the world to Georgia, Auburn, and just college football fans. Your relationship with him is so special. But you are blessed in your position to know these coaches. And I'm getting text right now from friends of mine that are going, and they're not even Georgia fans. They're going, how do I tune in to the Georgia football game pregame show with Loran Smith? I want to hear this guy. I love him.
Well, I will preface my remarks about Vince by saying General Nealon said you can only get your team up for a peak performance maybe a couple of times a year. And that was back when they played 10 games. Now, you just what Nick Saban did first, what Kirby's copied at Georgia, and what a lot of other coaches have tried to emulate, is you recruit deep enough that sometimes when you're having a bad day, you win because you got more talent. And how many times I'd have to go back and do a little cursory research, but how many times did Nick Saban win when he really should not have won? Well, he had more talent. And that's why he won all those championships. Kirby wants to do the same thing at Georgia, and so does every other coach, but it's easier said than done, as we all know. And I see schools trying to hire a coach, and they want to find that coach who can do what Saban has done and Kirby is now trying to do, and has put himself in a position where he should be able to succeed to some degree. There's just not going to be that many Lombardis out there, not going to be that many Bryants out there, not going to be that many Sabans, going to be that many Kirbys, but somewhere. I remember when Tiger Woods was at his invincible peak years before his game left him, and he had that car wreck and had other complications. I remember Nicholas, somebody said, Jack, there's no way anybody can ever beat Tiger. And Jack said, oh, no. Right now, somewhere, somebody out there is preparing himself to dethrone Tiger Woods, and someday it probably will happen. Nicholas was not knocking Tiger in any way. He was just saying the inevitable is that if you're on top, somebody's going to dethrone you eventually.
Yeah. I got a text here from friend of mine, Pat Cornelius over in North Atlanta, said, ask Loran Smith if Happy Gilmore is the greatest golfer he's ever seen at the Masters.
Well,
now who's the greatest you've ever seen? Seriously.
Well, I think
Vern Lundquist liked him.
I was going to say Vern, a close personal friend of Happy Gilmore, was not the greatest golfer, but he was certainly the greatest conversationist and dinner partner. Ain't even close. Vern's the best, hands down.
Yeah.
But I think Nicholas probably was, although everybody who came along in Nicholas's time, now it just shows you how people are and how the world really is. I all thought Jack was the greatest. Those who came along in Tiger's era, they think he's the greatest. But either way, you'd like to have either one of them's career because they certainly reached the mountaintop. And they did it in different eras, but they did it their way. They I've always felt that what would Nicholas have accomplished with Tiger's clubs, and what would Tiger have accomplished if he played with Jack's clubs, might be interesting. But that's a debate that would last forever.
I see a book, Loran. I see a book.
See a book.
You ready?
Yeah, but I'd have to do more research than the Grim Reaper's going to allow.
Oh, man. I love it. Jimmy, jump in here with Loran Smith. That is a great quote.
Well, first of all, you got a really strong argument with Nicholas, because not only did he win 18 majors, he finished second 19 times. I mean, there's nobody even in the same planet with that, and with the equipment also, absolutely, because what they're playing with today is just almost nuclear gear, so it's totally different time, But Loran, what I wanted to ask you about regarding Georgia's place in the college football universe right now, I personally found it very surprising that coming into this season, I did not really see South Carolina or making much progress in the league, or Missouri. We knew Florida would be a year one deal. They had flashes, and then they had rough times. But then, Tennessee, with the way that they just came out of the gate, it just seems like that the Eastern Division all of a sudden is improving to the point that, when you see Georgia matched up against somebody in a couple of weeks, that's not an automatic win anymore. I mean, it was everything they could do to beat Missouri, and that was a Missouri team that was coming off the most heart-wrenching loss you could ever think of against Auburn the week before, and yet every week it seemed like Drink was able to get these guys ready to play no matter who it was, where it was at. And then South Carolina late in the season, 7 days after just getting murdered at Florida, it seemed like they just completely changed their offense on the fly, because what they ran against Tennessee and South Carolina, that was not the offense they've been running all year long. So it seems like now they're really on a positive direction, and looks like they've got a very bright future. And it looks like that Eastern Division is a totally different division than it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Hold those thoughts, Loran. We're going to come back just a couple of minutes with you. I know you got to get going. I want to hear your answer to that question on Sidelines, college football, basketball roundtable.
Now more than ever, it is so important to shop local and to buy American. For 60 years, Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company has been on the historic Collierville Square, and we strive to sell made in the USA products when available. With over 7,000 pairs of Western boots and work boots in stock for men and women, come and see our huge selection of clothing, jeans, and accessories from top brands made in the USA. Please support local business and come shop with us at Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company. God bless the USA.
All right, Loran, if just a few more minutes, I know you got to get going. I'd like to get your answer to what Jimmy just said before the break.
Well, I've had a lot of birthdays. What did he say?
All right, take two. All right there, Jimmy, what do you got?
No, I think South Carolina and the East is an example of the Eastern Division maybe getting a little updraft, because you got new coaches across the board. Kirby will be the senior coach here any day. I think maybe he already is in the division. So the situation is that everybody's got some players today. They may not have enough to win a championship, but they certainly have enough to be the spoiler if you come to a game and you take them for granted and you're not ready to play. Now, I might have used this example before in the show. I can't remember. But I was having breakfast with Bill Yeoman at the Sheraton Lemoyne Hotel in New Orleans one year back in the 80s. And he said, I wouldn't walk across the street to hear Bear Bryant talk about football. So I wouldn't learn anything from him. Well, at first I thought he's being disrespectful, and I was taken aback. But he said, I'd get on my hands and knees right now and crawl to Tuscaloosa if I could find out what he gets in his kids' heads the day they play a football game. So it's not the physical, it's not the talent in many instances, it's that mental situation. And then the breaks. Just think about 2 plays and Nick Saban is undefeated. I mean, 1 field goal miss. If he'd have made that one, Tennessee wouldn't have had the miraculous run. And then that 2-point conversion in Baton Rouge, LSU, my goodness, that play might fail more often than it does, and then it succeeds. So if you get the mental part right, you're going to have great success, provided that you've got talent. And you can't expect Missouri to win a championship in this particular year. But on their day, when Georgia wasn't ready to play, they almost pulled off a big upset. And you could see the ball bounces funny. And it's just like if you're playing a guy you beat most often in golf, one day he gets it going and you start pressing to try to beat him. Next thing you know, you're the guy that loses the bet at the end of the day. So I think that it's a mental thing more often than not. Confidence, experience, but the big thing is you got to have the horses, you got to have talent. But everybody's got some talent. They just may not have enough to win a championship. But on the day you don't play and they do, you can get beat.
Yeah. Kevin?
That's a great point, Loran. You know, and there's really, this may sound strange, but there's a humility to a Kirby Smart and a Nick Saban. I go back to the story that Nick Saban told Mal Moore when they were on the plane from South Florida to Tuscaloosa after Nick had accepted the Alabama job. And he told, and I can't say the exact words that Nick said, but he told Mal Moore, you know, you're getting a so-so football coach, but you're getting one heck of a recruiter. Nick knew that it started with players. And as smart and brilliant as he is in terms of strategic decisions and development, he knew it started with players. And Kirby obviously learned at the right hand of Nick Saban. And Kirby's referenced that. He said, did he not say that after a Georgia-Florida game a couple of years ago? You know, if you think you're going to outsmart or out-scheme other coaches in the SEC, you're far too arrogant to actually be successful over the long haul. You've got to understand it's those young men in the uniforms that make the difference. And it's your job to put them in the best position to do that and gather enough of those guys. So as Loran said, on those days when you're not at your best, you've got guys who can make plays to pull you through.
Yeah. Loran, no truer words have been said, have they?
Oh, totally agree. And, you know, I can remember through the years, like, you know, I remember Georgia because that's part of me, and just like you remember Auburn because that's your heritage. But I can remember when I was coming along in the late 50s and 60s, and then into the 70s, I was following college football right on up to the glorious 80s. Just so many times a championship team would win a game they should lose, and that's why championship teams are champions. They find a way to win when they're having an off day. Yeah. And Bryant did that as well as anybody, and I guarantee you Saban, all-time best, and then Kirby is trying to follow in his footsteps. Those are examples we know, but you just can't dominate forever. And another thing that I find interesting when I see people hiring coaches, how many of Vince Lombardi's coaches were super success? Can you name one? Forrest Gregg a little bit. Yeah. Bear Bryant's best protege was Gene Stallings, and he got fired twice, but he did win a national championship at Alabama. And I know and love Gene. I'm just saying, how many of these great coaches are going to spawn coaches themselves? Saban, what's his box score? Kirby, I guess, is the best example, but he did lose to Jimbo. And you'll lose a game or two here, but it's just hard to find a guy who is on top of things as well as Saban himself. And then, of course, now Kirby. Kirby is a shining example of a guy who can outdo his mentor to some degree. But you do it one time don't mean you're going to make a habit out of it. It's that tough a business.
Yeah, no question. And you think that you're good, like you say, watch out. Kirby Smart, one thing I noticed with him is I watched the pregame when they show him unplugged, kind of he's going up to every player on the practice field and saying something to them to have contact with them. Listen, Loran, I know you've got a big day ahead of you, and so we're going to let you go. I want to say how much we appreciate you taking the time. I got a lot of dogs that are listening and texting me from all over. You are loved by Georgia people and people of all different fan bases because you genuinely love and respect the game. When's the book coming out on last year? We're not going to talk about this year's book that you're probably going to be writing, but if y'all are the only SEC school in there, you're going to probably do it. You're going to do it again. But when's the book likely to come out so people can start making some IOUs for Christmas presents?
In late spring.
Okay.
It'll be out in late spring, we hope. And, of course, everybody who likes me thinks I got money, thinks I'll buy them a drink when they see me at the next bar.
Well, Loran, have a great day today. We'll be watching 3:30 kickoff, and let's get you back on next week talking about where the dogs are going in the playoffs. But, again, it means the world for you to take time to join us on Sidelines.
Great to be with you, Rob. Y'all have a good weekend.
All right, you too. Thank you. That is fun. I'm going to tell you what, Kevin and Jimmy, you think about what he just said, how hard it is to spawn coaches. I mean, Gene, I think Coach Bryant, Kevin had 38 of his assistants go on to be head coaches. You think of Jackie Sherrill. You think of Pat Dye. You certainly think of Gene Stallings. And there were other coaches, but wherever one of his coaches went, there was a buzz around that program, Kevin, always.
Well, everybody wants to find that secret sauce, right? So you go to the source. You go to the wellspring, and that's why you see so many programs today hiring Nick Saban assistants, former Nick Saban assistants, because they have seen the blueprint up close. They've helped in some cases write the blueprint, and no one more so than Kirby Smart during his time in Tuscaloosa, and execute the blueprint. So it's amusing in a way, though, because it is so hard to replicate it. As much as you may understand it, how Nick Saban does it, it's hard to do it yourself. It's not easy. It hasn't been easy. Anyone who thinks what Alabama's done has been easy because it is fooling themselves. Ask Nick Saban how easy it's been to do what they've done. And I think one thing, and Jimmy, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. We've seen Nick Saban over the last few years, really seem to appreciate winning more than ever. Do you sense that he because again, he understands better than any of us what goes into each and every victory?
Yeah, I used to think he didn't even have that in his mind until a few years ago. But I guess when you get older and you realize you're eventually going to be ending your career, you can't help but start to think about that a little bit. And I guess the thing that stands out to me, and I think what Kirby has kind of picked up from Nick, is that Saban has had to many times during his 16-year run in Tuscaloosa have to make multiple changes in his coaching staff every single year. And I think what's really overlooked is how important it is to get a coaching staff that is cohesive, because you've got 10 full-time assistants and all those guys are different personalities. They have different personal goals when it comes to maybe where they want to eventually get to in their coaching career. You have different agendas, and the way he's been able to manage all of that has been amazing. And he talks about when he goes to the ESPN car wash every year, he said, I guess it was maybe after the 15 championship season, he said, anytime I go on a recruiting trip or anything, or whether it's something like this, I take everything with me. He's in total control of every aspect of the program. He knows how everybody's coming along on his staff. He knows where they're going, what players are being seen, and the way you coordinate that many people to me is amazing. And you think about what Kirby's done this year. It's the first time he's really had to make a couple of big coaching replacements. After Lanning went to Oregon, well, he already had Muschamp there in a consultant role, and I know he's in a co-coordinator situation, but Muschamp's got to be the main guy, I think, in organizing that defense. So everything has gone so smoothly, and I think, but you're right. I think what goes along with that is Saban has noticeably softened. After they don't play very well but manage to win a game, I think in my mind, he's become a much more positive reinforcement coach, because he knows you have to coach these kids differently nowadays. You can't coach them hard anymore, as we say, And so it's a very delicate balance, but he's mastered all those changes in how things work in college football now, and he's gone with the flow very effectively.
Yeah, but you can coach him. I mean, he's tough on him, but Kevin, I think that's a great take from Jimmy and from you about how he appreciates everything. I mean, he's not old. He's really not. He's 70, 71. That's not old.
71, yeah.
Yeah, 71. But man, he's sharp. And he's a regular celebrant at Mass. That's got a lot to do with it. But I'm just saying that the watching, I don't care who you're a fan of, when you watch someone who pushes in that bar of excellence every day, like Nick Saban, like Kirby Smart, it's something that you really, really can get caught up in, isn't it?
Well, and beyond all of that, there is an element of good fortune that plays into this. You're not operating in a vacuum. What you are able to do in a lot of cases depends on what other people are capable or not capable of doing. Flashback to 2011. Alabama doesn't get that rematch with LSU if Oklahoma State doesn't lose to Iowa State by a field goal the week after a terrible tragedy at Oklahoma State with a plane crash that killed members of the basketball staff.
Yeah.
And that whole entire university had to be in some degree of shock, and they got upset by Iowa State. And that one loss was the difference between Oklahoma State playing LSU in the BCS championship game and Alabama getting that rematch and completely dominating and proving themselves the better team. And so this year, I referenced this during the Iron Bowl in a tweet. Don't count Alabama out yet.
Yeah.
They needed a lot of other things to happen, but those things have begun to happen. And one of them was last night with Utah taking down USC in decisive fashion. They need some more dominoes to fall today, but don't count out Alabama. And it's going to be fascinating, guys. If this comes down to, for that fourth spot, Ohio State or Alabama, I'm going to be fascinated to see which way the decision goes and what the justification is from the committee chairman on Sunday.
Yeah, and we run out of time, but we've got a request in for Bill Hancock of the College Football Playoff Committee to be on the show next Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday after those rankings come out. And I'm hoping he can join us next week. But I'm going to predict the way things are going and what you and Tony Barnhart said, they take into account Tennessee's best player, Hendon Hooker's out. I think the way things are going, Alabama's getting in the playoffs. I said it earlier in the season. They still got a lot to play for, and they just keep winning. And then LSU, they're going to Atlanta, but even if they win, they're not going to be going to the playoff. That Alabama brand, that's what tradition means. It never graduates. Famous quote from Doug Dickey. All right, Kevin, tell people, let me say this. Go out and help somebody with the expectation of getting nothing in return. Don't give to get, give to give. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us, and we live in the greatest country in the history of the world, everybody. Kevin, thank you so much for your time. Buddy Martin, Loran Smith, Jimmy, everybody, tell them how they can follow you and all the great work you're doing down in Alabama.
Yeah, follow me at Twitter, at Kevin Scarbinsky. You'll see links to all of my work, the 2 columns I do a week for a new publication called The Lead. And then you can also check out my website at kevinscarbinsky.com. And most importantly, please go to coachsafely.org and see what that is all about in helping train youth coaches to keep kids safe and keep them involved in youth sports. You can take the course. You can donate. Every donation helps. $25 helps pay for one course to train one coach to keep about 15 kids safe. Is that not worth it? I think so.
Cost is only an issue in the absence of any added value, and that is absolute true value. Everybody be careful out there. Merry Christmas. Get out to Hewlett & Dunn on the square in Collierville, hewlettanddunn.com. Order from anywhere. Have a great weekend, everybody. We are out of here.